Welcome to the Jeff Knows Inc. Entrepreneurial Show with your host, Jeff Lopes.
We are live in the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Super excited to have on today, Kevin Makeley. What is up, brother?
Man, living the dream, brother, living the dream.
This
Happy
is
to be on with you.
We tried to do this recording a week ago. We had some technical difficulty. Kevin is an incredible, I want to say storyteller, just the way you go with your stories this is going to be a fun, entertaining conversation today. So I'm super, super excited. Let's flip it around. Let's go to Kevin growing up. Let's talk about that. Let's start with that again and just give our audience I want our audience to kind of, when the podcast is done, they feel like they know you. They know everything about you. So let's start with you growing up and transfer from there. I know we're getting in deep here, buddy.
Well, I grew up in a small town called Poughkeepsie, New York. It's not really so small, but I was raised by my mother. It was just my mother, my brother, and I. That's it. Which plays a big factor into why I do what I do. I had no male influences, so my mother would take us to the movies every weekend. It didn't matter what it was, whether it was G, PG. There was no PG-13 back in the day. Obviously, we remember, I think Temple of Doom was the movie that made it PG-13, right? Kalima. Anyway, I digress. Here we go already, off on a tangent. But it didn't matter what the movie was. We saw everything opening weekend. E.T., Rockies, Star Wars, Empire, Jedi, waited in line, the true blockbusters, and movies became this larger than life thing. And then these guys started coming out, Stallone and Schwarzenegger. As I got a little bit older, Van Damme and Seagal came out, and I realized that that's who I wanted to be. I wanted to be. Those were my male influences growing up. Stallone is my guy. He's just my guy. Stallone, and I'd say Mark Hamill, but I'll really say Luke Skywalker because I have the values of a Jedi, but I got the hero mentality of Rambo. So and the fighting style of Rocky. So a mixture. Mix all that together, and that was my main influence. And my mother was a musician. She played piano. She wound up getting a pretty bad injury in the early 80s. I don't get into all that, but pretty tragic. So her arm doesn't work as well, but she still plays. But music and art were her passions. So I didn't really grow up with a lot of sports. Any sports that I did, I got myself into. But I got into bodybuilding and martial arts at a fairly young age. My mother bought me a weight set when I was 14 because she knew I wanted to be like those guys. And our family runs heavy, so she wanted me to avoid the Makeley curse and lose weight. So I got into fitness and martial arts at an early age. But music was our thing. So I got a bass when I was 14 years old. The house was always filled with music. My mother played piano. So musician was my creative outlet. We were artists. I was raised by an artist. And little did I know that watching Stallone and Schwarzenegger and Van Damme, that's art. I thought these were tough guys. I never really saw it as art. I saw it as these movies, but just an artist all around. But music was my creative outlet. Never really thought about acting or being in movies. That was always untouchable, but music was always right here in my hands. So I was in bands. I had, hair down to here. I mean, my hair is pretty long right now because of my Macho Man role, but the hair down here in bands, from crazy metal to funk pop. Rush is my favorite band, my biggest influence, and I know you're
Canadian, massive Canadian band. The guy's obsessed with baseball too. Huge baseball guy. Yeah.
Fun fact is, my daughter's middle name, my oldest daughter, she's 5, is Lee, after Geddy Lee, first and foremost. Bruce Lee. And Lee Majors, because $6 Million Man was also my TV god growing up. So the fact that all of those guys have Lee, and they're like my 3, major influences that way, besides Stallone and everything, was pretty cool. So her middle name is Lee, Hazel Lee. Hazel Lee Makeley. It's a pretty good acting name. So maybe we'll see. So music was a thing, and then one day, movies were always like the it was the untouchable. It was never even never really thought, oh, I've got to be in the movies. I want to be on TV. It was always like this other thing. Like you said, music was my creative outlet. And then one day I got a Backstage magazine, which is like this old publication. I'm sure they still make it. You could probably get it online. It was for actors, and for actors that are struggling to be actors or struggling to keep their career. It was like inside information and a classified ad in the back for open calls, or, shows looking for extras or whatever it was. And there was this open call for a Woody Allen movie called Celebrity. And it was in New York City, and I was about an hour and a half train ride away. So I hopped on the train with my buddy Wade. We go down to the city, and I wait in this, they call it cattle call. And it's just this line for like 8 hours, just people mashed together waiting to get in. It's like around the block, 5 times. So we wait and wait and wait. And my buddy Wade's just there for support. He was my guy. Wasn't into the acting at all, but he just came. He was like, he was my wingman, my man. So we get in, and the reason it takes so long is because Woody Allen literally gave me a minute. I know a minute doesn't sound like a long time, but when you're standing in front of Woody Allen or anybody like that face to face, and he's talking to you, a minute is like 5 years, right? Yeah. So he gave me a full minute of his undivided attention. It's my name, how am I, blah, blah, blah. Just wanted to hear me talk and see my mannerisms. And clearly I'm very New Yorky because I'm from New York. I've kind of lost the accent a little bit because I've been in LA for 17 years, but this will never go away. He's very nice, very cordial. I know there's controversy around him now. I can't speak ill of him because when I worked with him, he was fantastic. I digress. I'm staying out of it completely.
Yes.
As much as I can. So anyway, a month later, then I leave, and it was very cool. It was, I was a little shell shocked. I was like, wow, wait, that's Woody Allen. He makes big movies, and here he is standing in front of me, talking to me. Like broke that barrier a little bit. And then a month later, I get the call. I got the gig, and just a glorified extra. Where I'm the cool guy coming in the club with a bunch of girls, and we're dancing. But I'm very featured. I get to, they really feature me coming out of, I'm the guy, we're in front of the club. I get out of the limousine with 2 girls, and we walk up, it follows me to the door. I did the doorman guy. Hey, I'm cool. Oh, I was probably 20 at the time, so I couldn't even really get in the club, but movie magic. I had a beard when I was 14, so we're all right. So we go and we shoot the whole scene. Very cool. A month later, I get a call again, and they have to reshoot everything because the actress that was in that scene, she's no longer in the project. They have to reshoot all those scenes. So I'm like, cool, I'm going to go back and do it again. And, so I go back and again. Of course, they truncate my role really tiny because they're, that's the movie business. They're reshooting. They have to move fast. So I think I get out of a taxi instead of a limo. I have 1 girl instead of 2. I go outside, they truncate it. But the woman who I'm now dancing with or dancing around, not necessarily with her, but I'm the guy right by her. She's dancing with, I forget who she's dancing with. But anyway, and it's Charlize Theron, a very new, nobody really knew who she was. I think she did 2 Days in the Valley at the time, maybe one other project, but she was up and coming, but she wasn't the Oscar winner, extraordinaire that she is now. And she was very nice, and we had a great time, and I got to talk. She was much more involved with Woody Allen than the last actress, so they were talking a lot, and we were talking, and it was really cool. It was just a really cool thing. And then, and then it went away. And then 2 months, 3 months, 4 months later, whenever it came out, the movie comes out, the poster comes out, and it's all these little tiles, a black and white film, and all these little tiles of all the actors that are on it doing their thing. And there's Charlize Theron, and she's like in mid dance kind of, and then right behind it is my eye, like this. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to tell you, like, if you look at it, Celebrity is the film. If you look at it, look behind Charlize Theron, there's a very young Kevin right here. I made it. My first role. I made it onto the poster. It was, it was very exciting. And I thought that was it. I made it. And then a long, hard road over the next, 20 years to keep a career.
Let's talk about that. And that's something we talked about a bit last time. It's not this glim and glamour and bright lights that everybody assumes an actor has. Many actors are, I would say majority of them are struggling, right? They're either waiters, and they're doing daily jobs just to get enough to show up to a gig or show up to to an audition, like what is the mindset and how do you keep going? Is it just that you're that one little gig just keeps you pushing on to the next? Like what motivates you to keep going? Because it's a very, very tough life.
It's a tough life. You need, I don't want to say you need a backup gig, but you definitely need a steady source of income.
Yeah.
You can't go into, some people get lucky right away and book a job, and I'm all for that. That's great. It's the, but one job, sorry, something popped up on the screen. Move that out of the way. Sorry. One job is not going to sustain you, unless you get a series regular on a show, but those come down the line. So you need a steady gig so you're not stressing while you're auditioning. But what you need to do first and foremost is be committed. I mean, this has to be what you want to do. If you think you're coming because, oh, I'm going to be a star and I'm going to do whatever, I think you should change your mindset, because it's why a lot of people burn out so fast. Yeah. They come in, they have a friend who's successful, or they've seen the stories or whatever. Maybe they're watching this podcast. They oh, I could do it too. And you can. Anybody can do it. It's not rocket science. It does take talent, but it takes commitment and hard work, just like anything else. But you have to study your craft. You have to be comfortable. If you even think you're going to come to LA or New York or Atlanta or anywhere, Toronto, anywhere where there's a business, go out for auditions, do all that, but you only get but so many first impressions. They say one, but there's a lot of different casting directors, so you might blow it with one and get in with another. Once you book a gig, you're good. But make sure you work on that craft. Whether this casting director told me back in the day, Joseph Milton, he happens to be one of my best friends. I love the guy. He's a big casting director. Yeah. I've been in a few of his movies, but he's a staple in the Hollywood community. He said, when you're not acting, get the newspaper, although that's not a thing anymore, but get something and lay on your back and just read it out loud. So you're used to talking and used to doing and always used to doing that. So I did that, and that's cool. And that helps, because you want to talk, you want to hear your voice. You want to be used to talking, which I know that sounds weird, but you want to be used to talking other people's words, really, and be natural. But you have to be comfortable in front of people. So you have to take an acting class, and the only way to do it is acting class, or do theater, or do something that gets you involved. Any kind of public speaking. If you're in school, running for president, or any of these clubs or anything where you're out in front of people, because that's what it is. When you're watching a movie, all you see is what you see, but what's on the other side of that is a mass of people that are watching you do your thing. And if you're not comfortable doing your thing, then you're never going to succeed. So you have to get all that. And then auditioning is a completely different beast. You can be, and I'm guilty of this myself. Yeah. This is now going to sound, you can be an amazing actor and a terrible auditioner. Or I've seen the opposite, an amazing auditioner, and then once you get in front of the camera, you're not a great actor. It's two different things. In an audition, you're really reacting with one person off of a script. There's no environment, there's no nothing. Some people create that world and they're awesome at it. Yeah. And then some people, myself, it really helps for me to be in the world, in my scene. Of course, I can act in front of a green screen. I can do all that stuff. But my auditioning skills are not, for whatever reason, it's not up to par. I work on it all the time. I lay down tons of auditions. Sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't. So you have to work on it. You have to be on top of your game. When you get the opportunity to audition, is a gift. We get stale. We get, everybody complains about whatever gig they're doing, whether it's waiting tables or fighting, right? Any job in the world is sitting behind a desk. Everybody, it doesn't matter how glorious it is in the beginning, everybody complains about it. Even if I'm sure The Rock complains at some point because he's too busy or whatever it is. He probably doesn't, because he's a pretty amazing individual. So I take that back. Auditioning is a gift. If you get an audition, you should put everything into it, know your lines, know what you're doing, have your intentions, and go in and give it your all. Because you go in for a casting director, or you put it on tape these days because of COVID, everything is on tape. And you give it your best, and you try to be as real as possible and find something to relate to, because that is what they see, the casting director. And if they like what they see, they send it on to the producer or the director. And if they like what they see, you get the gig. But if they don't like what they see, if it doesn't get past the casting director, it doesn't go on.
Yeah.
And if the casting director doesn't really like what they see, or they think you're green or don't think you're that good, they might not see you again. So I'm not saying that you have to be amazing every time. We all flub, but you have to put the work in every time.
Yeah, I think that just goes in general with anything in life, right? I mean, it's preparation. It's what's that saying? There's a saying that says something about you could be prepared. If you're not prepared when the opportunity comes, the doors are always closed, right? It's the people that put the work in, that put the reps in, that when the opportunity comes, people are like, how did he do it? No, he's been putting the hours in for years or months. This just finally the opportunities come for that opportunity to take advantage of it, right? Let's go back to a couple things here. Your mom, 2 boys. You guys could have streaved off and gone in the wrong direction, New York, and instead your mom, with art, with obviously love, with a lot of attention, a lot of care, put you guys in the right direction. What does your mom mean to you?
Oh, my mom is life, right? My mom left my dad when I was an infant.
Do you have any relationship with your dad?
No, and he passed away when I was like 14. We're going to get a little in there.
Yeah.
But he had a drinking problem, an opioid problem at one time. He was in the Navy, and he had got injured and on painkillers that, kind of transitioned to his life, that old story. So my mom had to leave. She had the kids, and she was young. I mean, she was young. She's 25 years old, right? And this was the love of her life. And she had to leave, and she left him for the kids, for us. And she gave up, I told you, she's a brilliant artist, brilliant musician. She gave up all her hopes and dreams to take care of me and my brother. Wound up working 3 jobs just to put food on the table. We didn't have any money, very poor, not destitute, but certainly I didn't have a new G.I. Joe figure every week, like the neighbors. And, it was tough, but very loving. But she wasn't around a lot because she worked. She worked at one point, kid you not, she worked her 9 to 5, and then she worked at J.C. Penney's, one job I remember, in the jewelry department after work.
Yeah.
And then she saved a little bit of money, and she bought a hot dog truck. So before work, she would drive this hot dog truck to locations, like from like 7 to 8 or 6:30 to 8:30, like construction sites and stuff like that. She would, sell the hot dogs, and then she would go to her 9 to 5. Then she would go to her night job. And on the weekends, we would go with her on the hot dog truck to
hustle.
Yeah, and yeah, it was, at the time, sometimes she would drop us off at school in the hot dog truck. And the hot dog truck was called the dog wagon. So we were like the dog boys, or what, made fun of and stuff like that. But and at the time it was like, Mom, I can't just drop us off around the corner. Like, no, I have to make sure you get in safely. That kind of thing. And anyway, at that time it was embarrassing, but now looking back at it, man,
it's so precious, so precious. It made you who you are, man.
And just think, I have 2 young girls right now, and I'm doing this career, and I produce, and I work out every day. Like I have a whole thing going on, and I still have to be there for them all the time. Obviously we make sacrifices, but I didn't give up all my hopes and dreams to raise my kids. I make it work. I have a beautiful wife. She's amazing. She's the rock of the family, right? She's the one. She keeps it all together around me, and I couldn't do it without her. But to think, if it was just me, or if it was just her taking care of the kids, and what you would have to sacrifice, like I wouldn't be doing this career. If I would be, at a desk while the kids were in school, and then I would be home. I wouldn't be able to go to Australia for 3 months to take care of, to shoot a gig and, work on a TV show or whatever I'm doing at the time. And the fact that my mother gave up all her hopes and dreams, and I didn't get it until I was older. And boy, do I get it now with the kids. But we had it rough.
It's so crazy. Sorry, Kevin. It's so crazy that as we get older, and we're roughly the same age, as we get older, we start actually looking at the sacrifices our parents made. You appreciate it so much more. And like we talked last time, I just lost my dad 12 weeks ago, and I sit there and it's like, sometimes I'll sit there and just, and I just start thinking of all the moments and the things that he could have had for himself and he didn't. He sacrificed everything. He would work, and this is obviously going on me, so I apologize, but I just want to tell you this little story. Like, my dad worked at Ford 2 weeks day, 2 weeks night for 30 years.
Wow.
Had a horrible sleeping pattern, always had sleeping pills just to get him through. And most people would take a week here, week here, week here vacation. He would block everything into the summer and block off 4 weeks every summer and save all his money. Didn't have a lot, threw us in a car from Toronto, Canada. We drive up to Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and spend three weeks on the beach every summer. And it was just all about building memories. He did everything he could to save for that moment. And it's like, when you're a kid, you're like, who cares? It is what it is. You're having fun. Now that I'm an adult and I look at my kids, like, and I could understand, appreciate those sacrifices their parents made, priceless, man. It shows what characters they had, what great individuals they were. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, real life superheroes, man. Just,
yeah.
I mean, you don't get more super or hero than that.
Yeah.
So yeah, fun fact, you bring up Cape Cod. I was married in Cape Cod. So,
oh, you were, huh?
Yeah.
Which part of Cape Cod?
Provincetown.
Yeah.
Fun part of it.
Yeah, it's a very fun part. I was there once. It's funny because when I got married, one of the first trips is, because I had such great memories of Cape Cod, was I took my wife and we went on we went to Cape Cod, and we ended up on the first day there, which I wasn't aware of the fun part of Cape Cod, the tip. We ended up there right in the middle of the parade, and we had so much fun. That was a memory from there. Then actually, when my kids were old enough, I took them on a road trip to Cape Cod.
Nice.
So yeah, just building those memories, right? Let's transition to your wife. How long have you been married for?
What was 7 years in September.
This is fairly new.
New. But we were together 4 years prior to that.
Yeah. So. Let's talk about your wife. I mean, obviously, as an actor, as you said, you might go to Australia for 3 months. You might be on a gig for 2 months. She has to be the anchor of the house. What does she mean to you, and how? Yeah, what does she mean to you? That's the easiest way to look at it.
And not to be cliche or whatever, but she's my soulmate in the true sense of the word. I'm not a spring chicken, and I got married later in life. I didn't, and was it because of my mother was divorced? It really wasn't in my DNA, that lifestyle. I'm a serial monogamous. I had a lot of long-term relationships, but never really anything resulted in marriage. And I got to say, within 2 weeks of meeting my wife, I knew she was the one. It took me almost 5 years to propose, but I knew she was the one. I didn't have any qualms about it. And then most of that about proposing was because it had to be an over-the-top, amazing proposal, and I couldn't quite figure it out.
How did you propose?
It took like 2 years. We went to Big Sur.
You just led that up to something good. So if it's not good.
I mean, I jumped out of a parachute and still diving. I had a ring and an oyster. No, it's funny. So, we have a very small family. My mother and I'll go back a little bit, and I'll get to the romantic part of it. And my mother was coming out, and I knew that I wanted to buy a ring, but I had no idea what to do or whatever. My mother was coming to visit, and I said, while you're here, will you go ring shopping? I'm going to propose to Christy. And I had actually the year before, we were visiting her parents I think they were living in Florida or South Carolina at the time. They moved a lot. And I traditionally asked her dad if, for permission and that whole thing. And so that was really cool. It was very,
chivalrous, old school,
manly thing to do. It felt amazing, but then it took 2 years to propose, at the end. But so that so my mom comes out, and I think it was the next day, and my wife went to work, and I have the actor's schedule, so I don't always work during the day. So I'm with my mom, and I said, well, you ready to go ring shopping? She said, hey, well, come here. And so she opens this box, and there's this gorgeous ring in there. What's that? She said, this was my grandmother's ring. And they got married in 2012. I'm sorry, 1912. They were married. And it was this, she's like, this is really the only family heirloom we have, and I want you to have it, and I want, and at first it was beautiful. And I was like, oh, I was so conflicted. I'm like, aren't I supposed to buy her a ring? Am I supposed to give the, but if you know my wife, which maybe you will by the end of this conversation, she's a very sentimental, beautiful soul. She's, we connect on this soul level. We're completely two, she's a little, Korean woman that reads lots of books of it, and I'm a like a giant heavy metal blasting, comic book reading, movie going fool. Like we're two different people, but we meet together in this middle. It's amazing. But I knew it was the right thing. It's not about the money. It was about the sentimental attachment. And we don't have any family heirlooms, no anything. I don't even really know a lot of my outside family. We're such a small, little, tiny family. The fact that somebody else existed that passed something down that I can pass down. And anyway, it was gorgeous. So we brought it. It was dingy and it was old. Brought it to a jeweler to look at it, to clean it up. The guy took it and nearly flipped his lid. He was like, where'd you get this? What is this? And it's handmade. And anyway, so I had this ring. And now I up the game with this sentimental ring with this story. And now the clock is ticking because they were married in 2012. So I needed to propose in 2012. Right. 1912. I needed to propose on the 100-year anniversary, the whole thing. So my wife has an affinity for tree houses, something about her growing up. She loves tree houses. So I found a tree house in Big Sur, California, that overlay in this, resort. But they have this little quaint private tree house that's way off the beaten path and overlooks the Pacific Ocean on a mountain, on a cliff, overlooking the ocean. And it's just it's a tree house with like a rope bridge or whatever. So we go and we're just going to have a fun weekend. And we go there. And then, so we go in the tree house and I have champagne, things hidden in the back of the trunk, champagne, rose petals, chocolates. We're very into camping. So I got these chocolate dipped s'more strawberries. They're chocolate. Anyway, so I had this whole spread. It was hidden in the back of the trunk. And we go out to dinner in the resort area. And the car is here with the stuff hiding in it. The restaurant is here, and the treehouse is all the way over here. And I go, we're in the middle. I don't know what else to do to make it, because I'm trying to surprise her. So, and I want to surprise her at the room, not, privately, not in the restaurant. So I'm like, oh, I got a stomachache. I have to go to the bathroom. I couldn't think of anything else to say. And she knows I'm not a big public bathroom guy. So I'm like, I'm just going to run back to the room. I'll be right back, whatever. So I come out. I run to the car, I run to the room, I set it up, rose petals, candles, and get this whole thing together, and I'm gone. Who knows how long I'm gone for? Could have been 20 minutes, could have been an hour. I come back, I'm dripping with sweat, about as unromantic as it gets. Like we're away. I'm like, oh, it was bad. I had to play up the fact that I was in the back because the surprise was more important. Anyway, we finish up dinner and we go back. And I had music playing, and just as she walks in the ring, the ring was burning a hole in my pocket I had it in my pocket the entire time because I didn't want to leave it anywhere. It was in my safe at home for as long as it was, then it was in my pocket. And so it was in there, and she walked in first and saw, whatever. And then when she turned around, I was on one knee and I did it. And it was in this, it just petals, it was the traditional, I don't know, but it was special because it was a special time and a special moment, but it was typical Makeley fashion. I had to use like a poop excuse to like make it happen. And so there was an element of comedy and craziness, but boy, was it gorgeous. And the setting with the sunset and the, window and the ocean and the treehouse, and we walked across a rope bridge to get in there, and the door opens and it's just candles and flowers and champagne. And she turned around like, what? And it was like, here it is. And I couldn't even get it out. I just couldn't even get it out. It was just like, but and there was, and my soulmate. I couldn't have been happier. And it's funny. And then the next day we call her dad, her mom and dad, and he was like, it's about time. He was like, I was going to ask you to marry me if you didn't ask her in a minute. It was a whole funny thing, but everybody was excited, and there it was. I hope that lived up to the expectations.
Yeah, it did. It did.
Very romantic, but it was all about that ring.
So, growing up, wrestling, big part of your upbringing. Like obviously, you loved watching. You're old school WWF, kind of like me.
For sure, man.
When was your first introduction into wrestling? Watching? How old are you?
I was 7, 6, 7, 8, 9.
So you're at the same time. Do you remember? So see, in Canada, I don't know how it was in the US, but in Canada, the main events were once a month on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
And it was late. Yeah. I remember I'd fall asleep. My dad would wake me up at like 10, 11 at night on a Saturday. And that was when the big stars would actually, it wouldn't be a secondary guy, it would be the big stars going at it. And that was a huge thing. And my dad would sit there and watch it with me. And that was probably the same thing. I was probably like 5, 6 years old when I started that.
Yeah, man. It was, it's funny because, I would all about the movies and then, and these larger than life guys. And then all of a sudden there were these real guys, the real guys wearing superhero costumes, being crazy, and good guys and bad guys, and it just all unfolded in front of you, and it was unbelievable. We used to go to the Mid-Hudson Civic Center, which consequently, or coincidentally, I should say, was where Macho Man made his WWF debut. And I might have been at that one. I was very young. I might have been at that one per se, because we used to go whenever my mother could, save enough money for us to go, we would go because they came there all the time. Yeah. Well, not all the time, but enough, a couple times a year, and we would go there. And, I remember actually met Macho Man one time in the diner. This was probably in the early 90s. It was Macho Man and Vince McMahon. It was before he went to WCW. They came in the diner. I didn't go to the show. They must have been at the Civic Center. I was a little older. We were in a band. I think we had got done with a gig, and we were at the diner. That was the spot. You go to the Duchess Diner, and have your coffee and your pancakes. The late night spot. And then I go to the bathroom, and out comes Macho Man and Vince McMahon, like what's happening right now? And they're like in the diner. It couldn't have been cooler. And Macho Man was still just Macho Man. Vince McMahon was very nice. They didn't give us a lot of time, but it was just like, oh yeah, brother, oh, nice to meet you, And so I got to meet him, which was really cool. But yeah, I used to, every weekend, I can't tell you how many beds I broke to the floor by, jumping down or flipping over. I used to, grab blankets and do the Ultimate Warrior. And I used to, it's so funny. It was Macho Man, and then later Ultimate Warrior. I just had this affinity for Nikolai Volkov. Was something about him, and obviously the Iron Sheik.
Iron Sheik was a big character, man. That guy, just incredible character.
So awesome. But I used to try to make Russian applesauce. I remember I used to take the apple and it's Russian applesauce, let's just squeeze it. And I take both hands and make Russian applesauce. It was so, and then I'd flip my bed over. That's what you did. Just these larger than life guys that were so influential on me. Not an attitude and not anything, but maybe not an influence to what I wanted to do, but just watching and enjoying.
Of course. I think we all, I think majority of gentlemen in our age bracket all had their moments watching the WWF. And those characters and the Ultimate Warrior and just even like Roddy Piper. The characters were so fascinating, right? At that age.
Piper. Talking about
when you heard of the opportunity to play Macho Man, how did that come about, and how did the audition go? And give me a little understanding of that.
Man, it's a funny story actually. So more history. My brother is my agent, my talent agent.
Oh, he is.
Oh yeah. So we keep it in the family. It's great.
Does he work with other artists as well, or just you?
Oh yeah. So he runs the theatrical department in Stewart Talent. They're in New York. They're actually, I think they're Atlanta, LA, and New York, but the main hub is in New York, and he's there. He was out here for a long time, but he's there. I'm getting into the whole story of how that all came about, how he became my agent, but we've been working together for decades.
Yeah.
So I get this call, and it's a love-hate-love relationship, right? I love my brother. Sometimes I hate my agent, and I love my brother. It's like that's how it is, and he feels the same too. There's so many times, I said, if you weren't my brother, I would fire you. He was like, if you weren't my brother, I would drop you. We're like, it's like, but then we love each other. So it's a love-hate-love relationship, with hate being the smallest part of it. But anyway, I digress. So I get this text from him, and this also another story around that too, but I get this text from him saying, I need a picture of you dressed as the Macho Man ASAP.
Yeah.
So to give a little history on that, I've been the Macho Man for Halloween 3-4 times, 3-4
Yeah.
different years. Make my own costumes. Macho Man's my favorite guy, and what a good costume that is for Halloween. I mean, one year one year I made this real elaborate one, and I got all these Slim Jims, and we went to West Hollywood in LA, and they do the biggest parade and thing, and I'm like, stop it, Slim, and I'm like throwing Slim Jims at people. It was just amazing. Anyway, so he's my brother. He knew that I was Macho Man for Halloween, so I send him a picture, and then he gets back to me, and he was like, all right, here's this audition, you have to put it on tape. So I get it, and it's very cryptic. It says Young Rock, but all the names are changed except for Macho Man. And it's so funny. They always give a description of what they, in an audition, male, 35 to 45, 6 feet tall, this, brooding soul, but a happy guy. They have like a weird description of for any role that you do, they have to describe it so you can kind of make up a character. So they're like describing the Macho Man. Then they put a link to, I think it was the link was Macho Man proposing to Elizabeth was like the link that they sent. And they're like, we're not looking for a caricature, but this is the guy. And I'm like, why are you sending me information on Macho Man? Doesn't everybody know who Macho Man is? Why would you? But okay. So I bust out my old costume, and I have to put it on tape. And I just wear pieces of it. One scene I'm naked, so I don't wear a shirt. One scene I'm just at a barbecue. So my mother lives in New York. She keeps a box of clothes here. In the attic. So I go in the attic, and I know my mom has something funky that would be Macho Man-y. So I find this pink tank top that's my mom's. So I squeezed into this pink tank top for one, and I do this 5 scenes, and I do the audition, and I try not to put too much stock into it, right? Because for whatever reason, I didn't think in a million years I would get it. So I just wanted to have fun with it. And I had to find, I didn't want to just, I'm going to do it. Like, I didn't want to do it, like everybody's going to do this. Yeah. Like I didn't want to do that. I wanted to try to find who's the Macho Man when he's not doing a promo or in the ring. So, I kept the voice, but I just made it very conversational. And I added a couple of whatever, and I did all the scenes. And then at the very last scene, I'm in full Macho Man, like the whole thing. But I do the scene straight, and then I look right at the camera and I'm like, stop it, Slim Jim. I just like broke character from the audition, and I just cracked myself up, and then I let it be, and I just sent it like that. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm not going to get it anyway, so might as well have had fun. Anyway, then I get a call from my brother. He says, they really like you. It shoots in Australia. You're going to be gone for like 3 months. Are you good? I was like, wait, I really got what's happening? He's like, Macho Man. I'm like, are you kidding me? So like now all of a sudden I'm like, and then he calls me back again. He was like, you're in the final running. They're just waiting for The Rock to watch it, to approve it. Everybody else has approved it. And I'm like, so I usually use a Vimeo link to put it. And you can see, when it gets viewed. For the most part, unless if they download it and take it off. But so it's like at like 8 views, right? So it's been watched 8 times. And every day, it's like Wednesday, I'm watching it. Thursday, I'm watching it. Friday, I'm watching it. Nothing. Friday at 9 a.m., nothing. 12 p.m., nothing. 12:15, it goes from 8 to 9 views. And I'm like, The Rock just watched my tape. And then like a half hour later, the phone rings. And I got the gig, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, ooh, yeah, we're freaking out, and we got the gig. But the moral of the story is, with my love-hate love relationship with my brother that I love dearly, it's very endearing. But if I was even with, like a different agent or a bigger agent, a CA or whoever, they wouldn't have known that I was Macho Man for Halloween. And so I talked to my brother later, and he said, when I submitted you, my picture is pretty clean cut, the IMDb, that whole thing. They passed. They didn't even want to see your tape because they didn't see it. They didn't see you being Macho Man. He was like, but I knew you were perfect for it. That's why I asked you for that picture. Yeah. I sent them the picture. They're like, oh, okay, I could see it because clearly here I am as the Macho Man, Randy Savage. So they saw me, and I booked the gig. But had it just been like, oh, okay, pass, we're not, like, oh, on to the next one, on to the next audition, I would never got it. So it's like, did all those years, me and my brother, like, just led up to that moment, that career.
So you guys are shooting season 2 now? Or have you started yet?
Yeah, in October we start.
Hey, you got to pull this out because I saved this on here from last time.
This guy. High five, Macho Man.
give me a little line, a Macho Man line, and we'll end the Macho Man part from there. But give me a little line on Macho Man.
Oh boy, I can't. On the tower of power, too sweet to be sour, funky like a monkey, space the place and sky's the limit. Ooh yeah. There's no warm up there though.
You know what's crazy is I had Diamond Dallas Page on our podcast. I've had a few wrestlers, but I had Diamond Dallas Page on. Incredible person, like heart of gold. Like I can't even stress what a good dude this is. Like I told him the whole story of my son, everything my son's been through, and literally like a couple days later, he sent a whole care package for just a good dude. We talk on the phone all the time, like just a legit good dude. And he was telling me some stories on Macho Man. And he's like, Macho Man doesn't matter what day, like it wasn't character, like that was him 24/7. 24/7, that was him. He took that role and it became his that persona became his identity.
He's living, the gimmick, man. I mean, he was living that. I mean, he kept it real forever. He evolved a little bit as he went on, like in those later years when he got really swole and got a little bit more tough biker guy. Yeah, I got that guy, but a little less flamboyant. But yeah, it was, doing the research for the role, right? Not to get back into Macho Man, but doing the research for the role, that's what it was. So in the audition, I made up that, that thing. I just kind of kept it a little, go too crazy. But then, now I got the gig. Now I have to find this character. And in every interview, every story, everything, that's what everybody said. And he was always the Macho Man. He never shut it off. And I said, well, I can't go on TV and you can't do it because it won't play. It doesn't play in real life. There had to be somewhere in between. So what I figured out was, or for my character, that Macho Man, he runs at an 11. And you don't shut him off. You just turn him down. So he's always this guy. He's always this guy. Yeah, he's always that guy. He's not always this, he's not. Yeah. So I turn him down, and sometimes we turn him up and sometimes we turn him down. And in that moment that found that, the peace in it, and found that, the grounding, that I needed for that role to go in with confidence. And because we all do a Macho Man impersonation. We'd all do a good one. Yeah, it's not, but the mannerisms, it all fit together for me. The personality was the last piece. Obviously, I fit the bill, right? I kind of look like him. We have the same hair, the same beard, same build. We're both 6'2", 230. We all have that going on. So that's what got me the role, because we can all do a Macho Man impersonation. But what gave me the confidence to pull it off and not get skewered by the fans, which would be me too if it was somebody else, was that turning him down. And it gave me the liberty, like, like nobody really knows what he's like off screen. So if I'm having an intimate moment with my friends, that's how it's going to be. We're just going to talk like this, but it's going to be real, and it was just so much fun. And boy, the producers, they were so amazing. And so after day one, Jeffrey Walker, the director, he's also a producer, came up to me and he said, he was like, you nailed it. I said, oh, you like that? He's like, no, you nailed it. Like, whatever you're doing to do what you're doing for him, you should be proud of, because it's a tough character. Like, really didn't know how it was going to be. We love your tape and whatever, but now we're here. And whatever you're doing is working, and you should be proud of yourself. And I was like, wow, you get that. It's an ensemble cast, and we're to sing them out. So, oh boy, and that was after the first day, so that really up. And then we got into, like, you would do the lines, and then they would write some alternate lines for you to do. So I would try some stuff, and then I said, what can I do? Can I do some things? And I started doing machoisms, like the tower of power, too sweet to, soar like an eagle, slither with the snakes, like all the little things that he says. And wherever I can apply them to the script or just make up something that sounded like that, oh, they were eating it up. They loved it. And they allowed it. A lot of it didn't make it to the actual show, but I think that they let me do it because it was just fun. And it was infectious. The whole crew, the cast, anytime I walked in, because as soon as I left the hotel, I was Macho Man. I didn't shut it off. I'm not I call myself method in the moment actor, where I'm not like, I'm not Daniel Day-Lewis where I got to do it and I don't ever get out of character. But you got to amp that up, because even like the little one that I just did for you, that was completely cold, no prep, so you gotta get it going, get that machine going. So I'd walk on set and I'm already just talking to everybody like this, and I'm dressed as the Macho Man and we're having a good time. And then, I would like walk down the hallway and I would hear it, "Ooh, yeah," over here. And, "Oh, yeah, dig it." Like everybody's just doing it everywhere I go, but like having a blast. The coolest crew, the coolest cast, best producers, everything with this show is just so amazing. It's just a family. Anyway, what a great experience is what I'm getting at. And is there a future there for a Macho Man movie? He's such a well-known character that, globally, that would be a hit if done right. I hope so. They're doing the Hogan story. Chris Hemsworth's playing Hogan. There's a Macho Man in it. They're not shooting it yet, but they haven't called me yet. But they're shooting it in Australia, I believe, and we'll be in Australia. So you never know. That would be amazing. But as an actor, do you want to just play one role? But I would eat up a Macho Man movie or a Macho Man series in a second. Obviously, it's the most fun. My last movie that came out on Netflix a year or 2020, early 2020, Badland. I star in it. I get to ride a horse, which is one of my favorite things to do. I'm like a self-proclaimed cowboy, self-taught cowboy. Get to shoot guns and twirl things and fisticuffs and all the other things that and I'm a big Western fan. I got to live out that whole dream, and I was the star of that movie and I produced it. So it was I was like, it was amazing. But Macho Man, just as a side character in that show, so fulfilling. It's like it's just that. So let's talk a little bit about your production company. When did it all start? How involved are you? Like, when you do production, are you actually acting in all your films as well, or are you actually just have you done just full production on the side? Out of the 5 that I've produced and released, only one of them, well, 2 of them, I guess, I have smaller supporting parts. But I usually, I got into it. It started in about 2016 because I've been at it for a long time. It's so many, oh, this is the one, so many close calls. It's not about being famous. It's about working so much at acting that I don't have to do anything else, and I can support my family. And that's really what I want. And acting is my passion. So with digital age and everything going on, decided to take matters in my own hands and make my own movies. So I had a partner at the time. We don't work together anymore. That's a whole other story. But we made a film called Any Bullet Will Do. Was really just the actor, but I really was on the inside of everything. I wound up becoming a producer on it towards the end. I star in it. If you like Westerns, check it out. It's on, shameless self-promotion, but on Vudu, Amazon Prime. You can watch it for free on Tubi. What was it called? Any Bullet Will Do. Any Bullet Will Do. Okay. It's a fun movie. If you like Jeremiah Johnson, you'll like this movie because it really takes place in the snow. And it's like this grizzled, big beard, long hair, headhunter, bounty hunter, headhunter. It's cool. It's a fun story. Beautifully shot, and everybody committed. Oh boy, and that's a whole other story. But anyway, we hit it off and said, we should just be making movies together all the time. So started a production company. The name Papa Octopus came about. That's the name of the company, Papa Octopus Productions. While we were doing pickup shots for Any Bullet Will Do, we were stealing shots in Yellowstone. Don't tell anybody. So we were like in this caravan of like 3 or 4 cars, and we were in one. Anyway, we had radios, and over the radio we hear like, Papa Octopus, come in. It's all broken up. Papa Octopus. And I picked up. I'm like, Papa Octopus here. What's going? And it was like, what are you talking about? Who's a good? And anyway, so that something garbled came over the thing. It sounded like they said Papa Octopus. So it became the joke for the rest of the shoot.
Yeah.
And then later we said, you know what, that should be the name of the company. It's so out there. It's funny. It was born from a movie that kind of birthed the company anyway. So, and then it stuck, and that's what it is. And never once do we, do I really, sometimes I have to repeat myself. Once I Papa Octopus, what's the name? Papa Octopus. Oh, and then you never forget it, right? Because it's so out there. And it's PAPA. Octopus, Papa Octopus. Anyway, so we went on to make another movie called Big Legend, which is a Bigfoot inspired movie, which was spawned out of a Bigfoot encounter that I had one day, and I'm not afraid to admit it, but that's a whole other story too. It's a whole other podcast, man. But and then and I starred in that one, and we were creating movies around me, because I might not be A-list level as far as my career goes yet. We're getting there, but I certainly am, that guy, right? The action hero-y guy, right? I pride myself on it. So tired of Hollywood, or I shouldn't say Hollywood, just the business in general. Hollywood is very specific. Controlling what I do, right? And you're an entrepreneur. We're entrepreneurs. You either have to take the bull by the horns, or you're at the mercy of everybody else. So decided not to do it. So we're like, we're going to make our own movies. I'm going to star in them, and then we'll put other stars around me so we can get distribution. So we got Lance Henriksen and Adrienne Barbeau and Amanda Wyss in Big Legend, and you can see Badland is peppered with Mira Sorvino, Bruce Dern, Trace Adkins, Wes Studi. This is Jeff Fahey. There's so many good actors in that. It's amazing. So it was born from the desire to act, but the desire to take matters into my own hands. So with the digital age, they shot, I think the original Avengers was shot on a red camera, one of the first editions, and you can rent a red camera for nothing, or you can buy a used one for nothing, and you can make the same quality content. Obviously you have to have the talent. You need somebody that knows how to shoot, but it used to be film, and film was expensive, and you couldn't do a lot of shots, and it was hard to move around, and there was a thing about it. And then where did it go after that? But now with the streaming age and the digital age, anybody can make movies. You just have to do it smart. So that's how it started, and it took off. We got all those movies distributed, and then so the budgets went from like 50,000 to 100,000 to 1 million to and
so crazy when you think about that, and that's nothing compared to some of these big boxes.
Nothing,
but it's crazy. But it's when you think of $1 million to a project that you're going to cross your fingers that you're going to get distributors for. It's a risky business. It's
a very risky business, but I like to feel that I don't want to say we perfected the model, but put all the money on the screen. You have to put the money into the cast. And if anybody's listening that's thinking about getting into it, movie production, or starting a production company, or making their own content or whatever, do it. You should do it, right? You got to, like any entrepreneurial thing, that's the theme of the podcast, you have to take risks and you have to take chances. There's a lot of people between you and yes. And if you don't take yes for yourself, if you don't make the yes, you're waiting for somebody to say yes. And does it happen? Sure, it happens. But
do you find a lot of, and see, I'm coming from the outside, obviously, of the industry, trying to look in, and this is something I've noticed, and this is even before speaking to you, I've noticed with, and correct me if I'm mistaken, but like Adam Sandler, or a lot of actors are either directing, producing their own films now. And this is something where this is going back for like quite a few years. I've been seeing that a lot more of. So this is something where a lot of guys, or a lot of actors, actresses, are taking control of their own situation, like you are, which that is something that really started happening in Hollywood.
Like look at John Krasinski did A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place 2. He directed it and directed, produced, and starred in the first one. He has a small part in the second one, not for, spoiler alert, but got more money and, produced it and directed the second one as well. So it's happening. It's not, I don't want to confuse the two. What I do at this level is very independent. A Quiet Place is also independent. It's, it's a small independent movie, but on a much bigger scale with major star power behind it doing it.
Yeah.
So I only say I separate it because at the end of the day, they're both movies. If you take like Badland, for example, I'm getting off topic. I'll bring it back around. But Badland, if I really told you what we made it for, you wouldn't believe it. But when it debuted on Netflix, it went to, it had a little run. It was in the theaters briefly. It has, DVD, Blu-ray, it was all on that transactional video on iTunes and, you could pay for it. But then it went, it does that run and then it went to Netflix and it shot up to number 3, the most watched movie on Netflix, number 3. And
which is pretty amazing when you think about that. It was,
I couldn't keep it together. It was like, not because that it was this hit on Netflix, but the fact that it's only a hit on Netflix if people watch it, right?
Yeah,
Netflix is an algorithm.
Yeah, it's all algorithm.
If people are watching it, it generates it, then it puts it on another list. So, it started at like, number 7, and then it went to number 5, and went to number 4, and then number 3, because once it was number 7, because people watched it. So it got up there, and then it climbed up, and it was like a Netflix original, a Mel Gibson movie, and then me. And the Mel Gibson, Netflix original was Netflix. It's like the biggest studio there is right now. The Mel Gibson movie was Lionsgate, which is probably the biggest indie. They're still in it because they're not a studio, but they're still, they're a mini major, we call them, right? It's just a big, with millions of dollars behind them. And then a truly independent film made by, me and my team, put out by us through a company called Cinedigm, who puts out small films. And you can't tell the difference. You don't watch and go, oh, this is a low budget movie, but you watch it just the same as any other movie. So you can make, nobody, as long as you have talent, you have a good script, you get talented people acting it, you put names in it, right? You have to put a couple of names or people won't watch it. You have to put a couple of names or distributors won't pick it up because they know people won't watch it and nobody wants to put the money out. So if you take one piece of advice besides doing it, make your own movie. If you're thinking about it, do it. Put a name in it. You have to put a bankable name. And if you don't know what that means, talk to people, get advice, talk to distributors, talk to people that find me on Instagram at Kevin Makeley, ask me questions about it. I'm happy to give, what I think a good name is or whatever. Find people that you can confide in, because some people think that, you might think a name is worth something. And you pay all this money for it, and it turns out the distributor's like, yeah, that doesn't bring us any money, so we're not going to buy your movie. So so you're still a little bit, at the mercy of the machine, a little bit, but you could do it on your own terms and do it right. You can certainly make your own movie without any names in it and make a great movie. And it happens, and it could get picked up at Sundance or anywhere else because it's so amazing. But name value is really something you have to do. And I had a point to it all. Oh, so the point is that one next to the other, you really can't tell the difference, right? You might be able to tell between that and an Avengers movie because that's, way up here, but a truly independent film, and it made it to number 3 on Netflix because people watched it. Eyeballs were on it. And it was so inspiring. Like, wow, I made this movie and it didn't matter. It doesn't matter what you say or you say or you say or you say. The people said they liked the movie and they watched it and they told their friends to watch it and they told Netflix basically to watch it because they, so that right there. And just so when a movie goes on Netflix, you don't really make a ton of money. It wasn't about the money, right? I was going
to ask you that. How does that, you don't have to give me numbers, but how does that work? Is it all algorithm on viewership, like every view? How does that work?
It's a licensing deal. So there's really 2 ways to go with Netflix. Either they produce it, 3 ways to go. They either produce it, and it's a Netflix movie and they hire you to produce it, or they bring their own people because you have IP, right? You have a great script or whatever, and they produce it and they make a Netflix original, or they buy it because it's so good and they make it a Netflix original, right? And they pay you, they don't pay, but that's it. Or like what they did with Badland, they licensed it for X amount of time. So they give us a licensing fee. But we don't, so let's just say a license, keep it simple, 100,000. So 100,000 for 6 months. Let's just say it's that. So in 6 months, it could be watched 20 million times. You don't get $1 more. you get the licensing fee. So it wasn't about the money. It was about the prestige, but of being in the Netflix top 10, in the top 5, in the top 3. But it was I just can't explain the feeling of that. It's one thing if you star in a movie or you act in a movie and it becomes a big movie or it wins an Oscar, but to develop it, produce it, raise the money, star in it, act in it, involved with the editing process and the scoring process and every detail about that movie, I was part of, right? From the idea to the delivering of the film. And
it's your baby.
It's my baby. And other people were involved.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I'll just say, Jennifer Ambrose and Sean Nightingale, my partners in that film, phenomenal people, amazing, just amazing. Couldn't have done it without them. And the list goes on and on. I don't want to give my Oscar speech, but so anyway, just what a good, satisfying, amazing feeling. And so just to prove the pudding, if I told you how much you made it for, I don't like to divulge that information for business reasons, and why, but if I told you what it was for, you'd be like, oh my God, I could do that. If I can do it, you can do it. Anybody can do it. Certain guidelines you have to follow. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions for anybody. If anybody ever, wants to ask, find me. But you should just do it. It's so attainable. It's so attainable. And because of that, now so many doors have opened. Because now it's not a fluke. It's not I made a film that the masses like. Now people want me to make movies for them. The pandemic really hit us hard as a small independent company. We just had to push a movie out to the new year. We were supposed to shoot in September. Amazing movie, horror thriller. We have Bruce Campbell attached to star in it. So this is one that I might be taking a back seat to just producing and being creative on it. I might play a small role. We'll see. And only because I'm not really right for all of the roles, and I don't always have to star in them. It's just hard to make a movie and not be in it or direct it and just produce it, because I am a creative guy. I'm an artist, so to just be the producer sometimes just doesn't scratch that itch for me. So so I guess that's going back to your original question 20 minutes ago. It's hard for me to make a movie and not be in it or direct it, because directing is also very creative. So which I've only co-directed so far. I directed a short, but directing is in my future. I'm definitely going to direct one of the next features coming up for sure, and I'll probably direct it and star in it, against the advice of Bruce Dern, who specifically told me, don't ever direct and star in your own movie. You're doing yourself a disservice, because you're great at both. And you don't want to diminish.
Didn't Clint? I'm thinking how many movies Clint Eastwood has directed and starred in.
I know. I mean, Outlaw Josie Wales, one of my favorite of all times.
I would say even quite a few of his last ones.
Every movie he's made in the past 20 years, he's directed.
Which is such an incredible fucking actor. Oh my God.
On my bucket list too of, if you watch Badland, sorry to keep bringing it back around to the things that I've done, but if you watch Badland, literally, I'm Clint Eastwood, Rambo, and Luke Skywalker all wrapped into one character. It was really like our love letter to Westerns and my personal love letter to my favorite characters. And it makes no bones about it. Like it's like, we're not trying to be anything that we're not. You're not taking it too seriously with the homages, because literally, there's a showdown at high noon, and we go to the eyes. It's an homage, but we play it straight, right? We don't play the homage. We just homage because we love it, right? Not stealing anything, not whatever. Just our influences in Westerns. It's all there, So some people might say, "Oh, all the tropes are there, all the cliches. Oh, you don't have to see the movie; you've seen it before." And then other people go, oh my God, it's exactly what I wanted to watch, because it's got all the things. You can tell that these guys made that movie because they love Westerns.
I have one question
to say.
We can literally have like 3-4 podcasts here. I have one question I always ask all our guests near the end, and two questions I'm going to ask you. One, because I know you're a little superhero geek like me. You can see all the Superman. My whole office, you see this place, it's like a wonderland of toys here. Favorite superhero, and if you had a superhero power, what would it be?
Oh, it's tough. tied for my favorite superheroes, Green Arrow.
Green Arrow.
Green Arrow and Green Lantern. And because
our Canadian buddy destroyed Green Lantern for you.
Oh, what?
Did you watch?
Oh, Ryan Reynolds. Right? Yeah. I'm like, wait, in the comic, did I miss something? Wait, what happened? Did you kill him off? What happened? What? I'm out of the loop. I mean, I don't say anything bad about it. He did his best. And the
Green Arrow, I mean, it's playing on to how many seasons on TV now?
Oh, I think it's off now.
It's off now?
Back at the very end, because they did a real, it was like, that was my guilty, well, Smallville was my guilty pleasure. I'm a DC guy.
So am I.
For the kids to fall asleep a little early so I could rock out Suicide Squad, I'm dying to watch it. Almost gonna let my 3-year-old and 5-year-old watch it with me because otherwise I can't watch it. I'm like, I have to see the movie. But huge DC fan. I grew up on it. My uncle, he died very young, I think in the early 80s, but he was a comic book fan. I mean, he had Superman #1, Batman #1. He had everything. He started collecting them when he was a kid in the early 60s, or maybe in the 50s. I think in the 50s, late 50s. So he had everything. I mean, and didn't keep them in Mylar bags. He had like this shelving system where he just kind of put them in. So he would turn me on to all kinds of stuff. And so he got me a subscription to Batman when I was a kid, and my brother got Superman, and we would read them like crazy. And then one day he gave me a Green Arrow, Green Lantern comic where they used to pal around together.
Yeah.
I fell in love with it. Even today, my favorite color is green, which is weird. My kids are always like, "What's your favorite color?" I'm like, "Green." They're like, "Why?" And I'm like, "I love Green Arrow." It's like, I can't think of anything. I'm the Emerald Archer. I love it. So I got turned on to that, and it's just something about the regular guy, and he's very political and he's very true, but he's not afraid to. There was this. Mike Grell wrote this comic. I would say it was in the 80s called The Longbow Hunters, I believe, where it was a different take on Green Arrow. There was no boxing glove arrows and none of that stuff. It was a very real, gritty. He killed people when he had to, and just so it was so cool to see my guy in that kind of light, and it was just a game changer for me. So Green Arrow, and then Green Lantern, because I just grew up with that, and I love the power. It's like whimsical and it's cool, but what I find is that they're both regular people. They don't have superpowers. The Green Lantern's power is powered by his ring, but he needs willpower to control the ring. It's not just mindless, so it's about him as the man with the willpower, and the ring only seeks out somebody that's, it's like the Excalibur of, DC power weapons, right? It only seeks out qualified, worthy. You have to be worthy, right? And with everything, not just strong enough or fast enough. You have to be worthy to wield the ring, right? Because it's a big responsibility. So they're both just regular guys that have become superheroes, and it's not like I didn't seek that out. It's just who I fell in love with. So even to this day, so whoever's out there, the powers that be, if you're going to make a Green Arrow movie, I'm your Oliver Queen. That would be that's my tip top dream role, is to be Oliver Queen in a movie. Maybe Papa Octopus produces one. Stranger things have happened, right? I would kill to do that. But so that's that. And then in the Marvel world, Deadpool is one of my favorite characters.
It's such an incredible. Ryan Reynolds, I think that guy's incredible. I put him next to The Rock right now, with just personality, giving back. He's doing incredible things. He's such an incredible.
And he's one of those character studies. Like, he makes acting look effortless, right? Effortless. Like, you see him, and then you see him in a role, and people go, "Oh, he's just playing himself." Oh, it is so hard to play yourself. And try it. Like, try to look in the mirror and read something, and read it in your own voice while you're looking, or put yourself, put your iPhone up and record yourself being yourself, reading somebody else's words. Try it. It's hard. You can do it. You have to practice, but he's so effortless. He's so likable. He's just such a likable.
I think that's the big thing.
And the charm and the charisma. He doesn't take himself too seriously. But he almost takes himself, not taking himself too seriously. Does that make sense? Like that's his shit, because he doesn't take himself too seriously. But he's an amazing talent.
He's doing. He's just those Deadpool movies. I mean, you just sit there with a smile on your face watching them. They're so well put together. I love them.
And that's, because he was involved and he liked the character, he had a passion for the character and he had a say in how it was going to be. And it's like, no, this is, this is how it needs to be. And it's like one of the first rated R, or the biggest rated R comic book movie to ever come out. Right. And that's huge because you think of comic book movies, kids are going to see it. So if it's rated R, you're excluding a Whole audience. But it was that good that you didn't even have to be a comic book fan to enjoy the movie.
Oh, 100%.
You didn't have to know who Deadpool is to enjoy that movie. And the costume, I always thought it was a rip off of Spider-Man a little bit, but it's really what it is a rip off of Deadshot. Deadshot. That's Slade Wilson, Deadshot, who looks much like Deadpool, and then Deadpool is Wade Wilson, and that's the old Marvel DC where they just like constantly rip each other off.
How did you like the? This is us nerding out here. How did you like the Captain Marvel movie? There's Captain Marvel and the other one. What's the DC one?
Oh, Shazam.
I don't know why in my head I was thinking it was original Captain Marvel. That's why I was thinking in my head. How did you like Shazam?
I dug it, man. I thought it was fun. It was like, I want to see my Shazam, take on The Rock as Black Adam and look like that, right? Because Shazam is arguably the most powerful in the universe, right? I mean,
I think they ruined the character with that movie. I think they kind of,
but at the same time, well, because they were. I know what they
could have turned that. They could have made it into this incredible character that would really propel DC, and they didn't. They just, I don't know. I think they lost. They lost funny with it.
They went funny with it for what it is. When I first saw, I was like, Zach Levi, and again, another tremendous talent. He's like a triple threat. That guy. Nothing bad to say about him. But when I first saw it, I was like, really?
Yeah.
Really? Like, why would you cast him? And then I get it, because they were playing on the Billy Batson, the kid version. And had, it was almost like the superhero version of Big, it's like, I'm still this kid, but I mean, that's cool. And all of that discovery and all of that fun stuff, he nailed it. And if you would have got a guy like The Rock, but The Rock has good chops like that too. Like if you watch Jumanji, he's good at like playing a different guy inside of him, But if you would have got, like Batista, who could, fit that role, or, somebody else. By the way, all tremendous actors, but they got a comedian, with good chops to do that, because they were, they're really looking at the first, hour of the film when it was this discovery, and that all worked great. It was just housed in the body of Zach Levi, which I wanted to hate. I'm not gonna lie, not because I hate him, because I think he's tremendous, but just miscast. But it worked. I thought it worked. I didn't hate it, but I went in.
I didn't enjoy it. My son enjoyed it, but I mean, maybe that's the demographic they're going.
That was right. If you see, so the producer in me gets it, what they were trying to do. And that's where, and they nailed what they were trying to do. They didn't make it for the fans per se, like the hardcore fanboys like us. But they made it for a specific audience. And for that audience, I see how it would work. Like I would let my daughters watch that film. Because it's fun.
It's funny that you said one actor, wrestler, that I've been so impressed of how he's transitioned into the acting world, because the first couple of films I'm like, this guy should not be here, and he's transitioned. And Guardians of the Galaxy, I swear to God, he's probably one of my favorite characters. I just laugh my head off with him, is Batista. He has really transitioned in the last 2 years or so, and really, like, he's really honing his craft.
I agree. And he's looking, I read interviews with him because I like to follow the big guys. I love the resurgence of the big guys. I mean, they all happen to be wrestlers, I mean, I guess Henry Cavill, you could put him in the big guy category. At least he's he's fit. But like these, massive guys, The Rock and Batista, John Cena is another one, where they.
I think John Cena has a lot of work still to do.
Yeah, but I haven't seen Suicide Squad. He actually got really good reviews, at
He
least
did,
the
huh?
one I read.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see. He does have some work to do, but he's doing the work.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
That's what impressive. So he used his name value as a wrestler and the fact
Yeah.
that, The Rock kind of paved the way for that. And, he's working at it, and he's continuing to do movies. He's not just, they all cater to their strengths. Like, I don't think if Batista didn't get Guardians, I don't think he would blow up the way that he is.
Yeah.
Because he was playing, he was in the James Bond movie playing that bad guy, perfectly cast. But then you see him in Stuber, it's a little bit different. He's a little out of his element, still hilarious. But
I enjoy that movie with my kids.
It was fun. I mean, it was a fun movie.
It was a fun movie.
Sorvino's in it. I like to plug her all the time because she's great. But he's working on his craft. But he picked a role that was perfect for who he is. Right.
Yeah.
That role in Guardians is perfect. And now that's giving him the platform. And now he's really working on his craft to be a fantastic actor and not just be the big guy.
Yeah.
He'll never not be the big guy. He always has to he's not going to get cast as, the skinny little guy. So there'll always be the element of that, the big guy in there, but he's broadening his range and that's what he wants to do. And that impresses me. I like that. I think it's great.
Love that. One last question for you, Kevin. If something were to happen to you today in a few words, how would you want to be remembered or described by your loved ones? That's throwing you way off. Love it.
Great father. That's it. It's all that matters, man.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. One thing I have to say about you, and I'm so impressed, is your open willingness to help others in your industry and just in general. I love that because I spent 3.5, 4 years. I took 64 entrepreneurs under my wing. I've turned some of them from ground zero to 7 figures. I never charged a penny. Never charged a penny. I love business. I love seeing people do well. So hearing you say that touches home, and I appreciate that. And that's awesome, man. And I think that is the biggest issue with a lot of entrepreneurs, whether you're an actor, whatever you are career-wise. A lot of people are scared to ask the questions. They're scared to reach out to people. And I tell this all the time, exactly what you're saying, where if you want to be successful, you find people in the fields that you want to be in that have reached that pinnacle, that peak, because most of those people at that level, they're willing to help.
Yeah.
And they could save you years, months, so many stumbles along the way by what the lessons they've learned. So if you are in a situation, whether you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be an actor, you want to be a producer, whatever it is, reach out to Kevin, reach out to people that are in that situation, that have been there, that have lived it. And God, just ask the right questions, man. That could save you so much time, so much stress. So I love that you said that. That was, as you were talking, that's probably one of the things that keeps clicking in the back of my head. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. It's, I wish I had that kind of, we all wish we had that kind of help, right? You like to pay it forward. It's not, there's
100%
for everybody, right? There's not, and even as an actor, and it gets tough as an actor, back when we were going to auditions, not to transition to a whole other topic, but, I always see the same guys at the same auditions. We had that, I had long hair and a beard. It would always be, these bikery guys. If I, was clean cut or whatever, it was always these guys, but we always see the same people. And it's like this competition.
Yeah.
And it gets tough because it's like, then you see the show that you read for and that guy got it. And then the commercial you read for, and that guy got it. And you get this, it's very easy to get that. But that consumes you, man. It consumes you. And if you're thinking about who got it or why you didn't get, well, you should always think why you didn't get it, right? Why didn't I get it? Is there something I can do to get it? Yeah. But in this business, it doesn't matter. You could be the best. It's like with the Macho Man. If I didn't have, if I was, 5'5", I wouldn't have got the Macho Man role, right? So a lot of factors were in place, not just talent, that led me to get the Macho Man role, right? So there's always a lot of factors, but you could be the best. I always think back on Rush, even like Neil Peart, rest his soul. God, so hard time losing him, but we fancy him the best drummer in rock and roll history. He's amazing, and is he amazing? But growing up, we used to be in a band with this guy Brett Milan, and every bit is good. You know what I mean? You know, and never made it to that kind of status. So just because you got it doesn't mean you're the best.
Yeah.
Just because you didn't get it doesn't mean you weren't the best. You know, you just got to be the best that you can be always, especially in this kind of business where you have to be in front of people.
And
you have
always be prepared.
Yeah, and you know, I guess, you know, a couple of words of advice that, you know, like I said before, just do it. You should just do it. And you know, just decide today you're going to do it. Just do it. It's not take down the curtain, take off the mask, whatever your hang up is about whatever. Don't say, well, I got to wait until I lose 10 pounds to get my head shot. I say stupid crap like that all the time. You know, I got to just wait until, you know, my daughter graduates from school so I can get all that out of you. I don't know why I said that one, but you know, whatever your excuse.
But it's 100% the excuse. Right. And I think a lot of people are always looking at the future, waiting for that moment, waiting for the next opportunity, or they're so stuck in their past and they don't live in the present. If you just live in the present and do what you can today to alter tomorrow, that's all you could do. And I mean, it's crazy that's as soon as you said that, the first thing that came to my head was the movie Up. Remember the movie? Did you ever watch Up?
Of course.
You never. It's the bare fact that you don't know what tomorrow brings. Life is so unpredictable. For you to wait for that perfect opportunity, it's never going to come. Whatever is in front of you right now, you got to take advantage of those opportunities. And when they're not in front of you, you got to go out and get them. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter what it is.
Make your own opportunities. So you got to do it. You got to do it to the best. You got to give 150%. If you want to do it, you got to do it because everybody else is also trying to do it. You got to do it. You got to do the best that you can do it. No excuses. And then the third thing in this business anyway, or I guess in all business, be humble. You got to be humble.
I think that's in life in general, man.
Yeah, it is in life in general. But you
just got to be humble. I mean, people attract to people that are authentic, that are real, that are vulnerable, and that are humble. That if you could be those things and just come out every day and show up, people are going to attract you. And when people start attracting you, good shit happens to you.
Agreed. 100%. And that's the way it is. You know, whether you call it the universe or God or the law of attraction, whatever your reasoning is for, you know, but you put good out, good comes back. When you put negative out, negative comes back.
Yeah, 100%.
And you don't, I'm not saying you have to be like that 100% of the time. Yeah. But you should be striving for that 100% of the time.
I love that.
Right? We're all human.
Yeah.
We're all human and we all have our moments. I have my moments.
Yeah, we all do, buddy.
You know, so, but it applies to, you know, hitting the gym, you just got to be healthy, whether it's the gym or whatever, like take care of your body, take care of your mind, take care of your family, be humble, all of those things. It all goes.
It's holistically. Yeah. And I love that you said that too, where I'm a strong believer where, I mean, business is huge to me. I mean, I have a whole bunch of corporations. Family is more important than anything to me, but I still put myself atop everything else. Mentally, physically, spiritually, I'm a strong believer. Like Oprah, you got to fill your cup up. You got to take care of yourself first. And if you're at your highest peak, then you'll be able to serve everybody else. You'll be able to take care of everything else. So you got to, and a lot of people get so focused on family, so focused on their business, on their careers, and they don't take care of the one thing that runs the engine, right? The engine in there. Right. And they do, they burn out. They're not able to serve. They're giving half-assed everything they do, and then they question why things are not happening because everything they're doing is half-assed. Yeah, you have to take care of yourself. You have to, and that's all three, like you said, mentally, spiritually, and physically. You have to, and spiritually, I mean, that doesn't have to be a whole way. It could be just taking care of your mind, being in a good place, right? So I love
knowing that it's not just about this. There's a connection with people, you know, just like you and I hit it off. There's a connection there. Is it spiritual? I don't know. You could take it that way. Or it's just two like-minded dudes having a conversation, but there's something about it, you know, just in general. So however you perceive it, like I said, it's religion or the universe or nonsense to you, you know, whatever your connection is to other people and the world, the earth, everything is there's something there, you know. But like to what you're saying, it's like when the oxygen mask falls down, you know, in the airplane, you got to put it on yourself first before you put it on your kid, you know, or whatever, because this has to be intact in order to do that. And that's, you know, as simple and as, you know, of an analogy as that is, it's true. It's true. It's very true. And it's very hard as a parent sometimes, but
100%, 100%.
You know, like me now, and get off on a whole topic, but I'm very into fasting and
I intermittent fast. I do too.
Oh yeah,
I do. I finish my last meal is at between 8 and 8:30, and I don't eat nothing till 1 o'clock the next day.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, but I only do it Monday to Friday.
Yeah, me too. I eat on the weekends.
Yeah.
But then I usually go Sunday. I try to stop eating as early as possible. Do a 24-hour.
Well, you do 24. I've never done 24.
Sometimes I'll do 36, 72.
Yeah.
I think 5 days is my biggest. But
you've done 5 days?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I guess, and on day 3 of my first 5-day, I deadlifted more than I've deadlifted since I was 22.
People don't realize, I'm a strong believer in your body has 2 functions. It's either digesting food or it's healing.
Right, for sure.
And people don't realize that. And people don't realize that. And I think if people were to focus more on fasting, whether it's intermittent fasting or long-term fasting, but eventually start with intermittent fasting, diabetes, there's so many factors that could be beneficial for, and people don't listen to that and don't pay attention to that. And it's something it's not something a lot of fitness gurus are using this now. This is going on ancient years, man. You look at cultures, how many cultures adopted this how long ago? Yeah. It's it's incredible.
To cleanse their body.
Yeah.
Whether it's cleansing of sins or cleansing whatever, they had this knowledge somehow of knowing that a fast cleanses your body. And that's what it does. It cleanses your body. Okay, but I do it. Oh, go ahead, man.
No, go.
I do because I do it for a lot of reasons, but the main driver is because I had kids in my 40s, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be, my 80s when they're 40, and that's old. And I don't want, I want to be a grandpa. I want to be, I want to be around. I want to be able to play with my kids. So that research, that how do you turn the clock back? That's what got me into intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
For the most part. So it's so healthy for you for longevity and for mental clarity, cognitive abilities, and everything else. So anybody that's teetering on it or wants to learn about it, you should look at intermittent fasting because it's the number one thing you can do for your health.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've been at it now for 2.5, 3 years. And who actually turned me on to it was a gentleman, a friend of ours. One of our close friends was diagnosed with cancer, and he lived about a year after he was diagnosed. In his 40s, passed away. And one of our other friends who was into intermittent fasting tried to really help him at the end. And it was too late at that point, but he really adopted it. And I started understanding and studying. And it's been about 3 years. Your energy levels, I'm up at 4:30 every day, buddy. At 4:30 every single morning. And it's not because I love to, it's because I sacrifice myself. Right. Because I'm home. I mean, today we're a little late, but I'm usually home from 3 to 7 every night. That's my family time. 3 to 7, I turn off my phone. I haven't missed dinner at home with my family for about 12 years.
It's amazing.
I'm home every night with my family having dinner. But in order to do that, I work from 4:30, and I don't get up and I work out. I work out with my son at night. I get up and I do a little meditation. I do about 5-10 minutes of core, just bring my energy levels up, feed the dog, have my black coffee. But I get more done from 4:30 or 5 till 9 o'clock than most people get in their whole day. I'm done my day. Amazing. And then the rest of the day is some podcasts, interviews. I'm just coming out with a sixth. I don't know if I told you this last time, but since my dad passed away, I wanted to keep his memory going. And it's been 12 weeks. And a week after, I looked at my wife and I said, I got to keep his memory going. So I sat down for about a week and I wrote 6 children books. And wow. I wanted to, all the books are characters of my dad and my 2 kids. Awesome. And each book's a lesson. We're going to come out and release a book every 8 weeks for a 20-year period. And the first one's going to be released in about a week and a half, 2 weeks. And it's called Grandpa Joe's Adventures. And first one's called Strawberry Mountain, and it's a lesson on gratitude. And every one's a lesson, and a money raised from that book is going to go to Sick Kids Hospital, which was a big part of my son's upbringing. So I'm always going. I'm always doing something. But for me to be able to do that, I need to have the energy, and fasting has become a huge part. Fasting, vitamins, the way what you put in your body is so important. So I appreciate you doing that. I'm gonna ask you, like, my podcast is usually like 45 minutes. We're going on to almost hour 2 now, which is crazy. One last question.
Yeah, man.
Bodybuilding. Did you ever compete?
I did. Yeah.
Well, so did I. What age did you compete at?
Let's say my first competition I was 23.
Okay, mine was 20 or 21. I did 3 shows.
Nice.
I'll send you pictures. How many shows did you do?
Like 7.
So yeah.
It was like 23 to 29. And my last show, I did all natural, never steroids.
Yeah.
We all natural leagues. And then the last show I did was aired on ESPN, and it was like this big thing. It was New York City. It was a big deal. It was cash prizes, and and I was pro card at that point, and it was great. And boy, I worked out. I was doing sprint. I wanted to come in biggest and the most shredded that I've ever, obviously. And I was getting older, so I had something to prove. And I was doing sprints on a 25% incline, 12 mile an hour. It was doing like sprints, like I'd say it was HIIT training. We didn't call it that at the time.
Yeah.
For as long as I could do it, and then I would just jump off, and I would go back. Anyway, I got a stress fracture in my left foot from doing that. Like going so hardcore and being so depleted. I competed with a broken foot. And it didn't fault me. Nobody knew, but it was so excruciating. So that on top of everything else, and I'm in the back, and guys are talking about how they passed the
it's such a dirty sport.
And I'm like, but I hadn't experienced that today, because I went pro. My first show, I went in the overall, which was a surprise. I was like, oh my God, yeah, that's amazing. But but I competed within that organization for a couple of years, and then I branched off to this bigger one. And it was like just when, I think McGuire was busted with steroids, and the wrestlers, and all that stuff started going down and so steroids became taboo. It was like so a lot of these guys doing steroids came down to so natural started going up, right? Because it was much more, it's all about the big guys, but the natural circuit started taking off, and when I was in there. So I literally sweating blood for this competition. I put my all in it, broken foot, all this, didn't even tape it because I didn't want it to look funny. And, out there, gave it my all. And for the first time, and it's not a vanity thing, but for the first time, I think I placed 7th. There was a lot of guys. I placed 7th. I didn't place in the top 6, so I didn't go on. And that would be fine, obviously, because, only one guy can win. Only 6 guys can place in the top 6, right? And there's, 30 guys in that class. But the guys in the back were talking about how they were doing steroids and got away with it. And, joking about it and whatever. And I was so enraged. I'm like, here I am, sweating blood for real, like hurting, dying to be the biggest and the hardest, the best that I can be. And you guys are just doing steroids. Like working half as hard as me, maybe working as hard as me, but you have the unfair advantage. If I was to do steroids, at 29 years old, I think that year, 28, I benched 405. That's how strong I was. I worked out, since I was 14, I was so strong. You get depleted when you do these shows. Of course, at the epitome of strength and physique, and and so if I was to do steroids, how gigantic would I be in the IFBB? But that's not what I'm an advocate. Again, anybody listening that's influenced at all by me, do not do steroids. There's a million other ways to get to where you want to be. Don't ever do it. And look at all the guys that are in their 50s and 60s that were contenders back in the day in whatever sport they were doing. They're all dropping like flies. And it's because they did.
It's the wrestling world.
It's so sad. I don't want to say anything negative about the wrestling world.
But it's such a, it's so sad. So sad. And even the bodybuilding world. If you're into it, if you used to watch it, get all the Flex magazines and all that, like there's a big chunk of them. I mean, there was, you would read some articles, or these guys would be like, they would have candy jars full of just pills, and they would just every morning, they wouldn't even know what they were taking, handfuls in their mouth. It's crazy.
Your body can't, you don't realize it, or
and you see all these guys, with the big guts, and they're like, they got a 6-pack with guts. It's all the GHP, like it's crazy the stuff they were taking.
Enlarging everything.
Yeah, crazy, man.
No, it's awful. And and your heart is a muscle, so your heart grows.
Yeah,
your bowels grow, like your organs grow. It's just not healthy, and your body can't sustain it.
No.
Even Schwarzenegger had like open heart surgery.
Had it twice already. Twice.
But he was proactive about it. And his day was a little bit different anyway. It's not like the guys today, or even in, the late 80s and stuff. But so don't do steroids. But so I went after that show, I went to the judges. I said, I'm not ratting anybody out. I'm not saying anything because, everything is fine. I said, but, guys are talking about doing steroids. This is natural competition. It's actually a judge that I knew personally.
Yeah.
So I didn't, because I'm not messing with anybody's game.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, we know all about it. I said, you know all about it?
Yeah.
He was like, well, he was like, the big guys bring in the money.
Yeah.
People come to see the big guys. And I'm like, they do a fucking big guy show. Like, what are you doing? Why are you doing a natural show? And, that's like doing steroids in the Olympics and taking the gold and thinking you're the best in the world. Like, come on. Why,
Did you not find, and this is one thing I found with the sport and what really turned me off, was there's two factors of it. One, the mental aspect. You're never happy with yourself. I found that you're never satisfied, which I guess could be a positive thing, but it also could be a very negative thing mentally. And second, it's very unhealthy. Those diets,
it's very
the way you dehydrate yourself. I remember sitting in bed, like we would do the water cut starting 6 days prior, and I would start off like I would piss into a cup, and then I would intake 75% of that back in water. Then it would go to 50%.
You drank your own piss? No.
Not piss, just the water. And then you keep going to the last 2 days. You're like depleting yourself. And you're mentally waking up at 3 a.m. like, I need water, even though your body doesn't need it. You're putting yourself through torture just to step on stage. Man, for a plastic trophy.
I know. But if you knew then what you know now, like if I knew then, I would fast and do the competition and not, and come in better. Because if I did the level of training that I did, it's like I always did fasted cardio. I knew that much, right? Like I'm at that time, but it was always 6-7 meals a day, right? I would
every 2 hours.
Every 2 hours, right? I would do my fasted cardio, and then I would eat plain oatmeal with egg whites in it, like a hard boiled egg. I would eat it, and then I would lift, and then I would, do my day, and then I would do cardio again at night, and I would go to bed. And if I had that level of intensity to my training with my fasting now, I'm getting there now.
I remember my last show, Kevin, I had 5 foods. That was all I was allowed to eat. We were eating 8 times a day. It was egg whites. It was hip steak. It was chicken, tuna, and brown rice.
Nice.
That was the only carb I had was brown rice. And no, just brown rice. That was the diet I was on. And I was literally eating that 8 times a day, every 2 hours, and everything was weighed. And it's this obsession. And and reality is, even just in general, like all that, like I was putting 350 grams of protein in my body. Like how much damage did I do to my damn little kidneys and my liver?
And you don't even know, right? Because that excess amount of protein spikes your insulin because you're totally. You go to like what neoglycogenesis or whatever. It's like it's so much that your body has to do something with it, and so so it's counterproductive.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The science of it now
it's different. It's a different world altogether now.
I was promised we should do it together. I was promised myself that I would do a master's. Once I was over 40, I would go back.
I would not go back.
I don't know if I would do it, but I made myself promise myself, and I don't want to, let myself down. But I guess if anybody's going to let me down, it's going to be me, and that's okay. But
okay, this has been a fun conversation. We're gonna have to do it again. When you said you're off in October to Australia again?
Yeah. Yep.
Do they already have it set for more than 2 seasons, or is it just 2 seasons?
Right now? Yeah, they'll renew it season at a time, so we'll see.
Yeah.
See how it goes. And what's great is this time I made such first time going was like into the unknown, like excited or whatever. But boy, I've never made such friends on set, and we're all going back. We have this, we call it the Gentlemen's Club, and it's me and Andre the Giant, Matt Willig is Chavo Guerrero, the Angry Samoans, the Angry Samoans is a punk band. I don't know why I said Angry Samoans. The Wild Samoans. My two boys. John,
you said Chavo Guerrero. He was in what character did he play? He was in there.
No, he's the wrestling coordinator.
Oh, he is.
Yeah. Oh, and what a good dude, Chavo Guerrero. I mean, he literally trained me to do the flying elbow. And we literally, like, you see the show, that's me doing the elbow for real. And I'd never been on the top rope before. You know, I fancy myself an athlete for sure. But, and it was on the day, you know, I remember the first night I met him, I was like, just so you know, I do my own stunts. You know, I like get thrown from horses for a living, that kind of thing, like in the movies. So I want to do the flying elbow. He's like, not going to happen. I'm like, why? He's like, it's dangerous. You know, when you're good at it, you know, it's dangerous. He's like, it'll never happen. I was like, all right. And then the day before we were doing the Royal Rumble scene, he was like, hey man, you want to do the flying elbow? And I was like, yeah, you know, I do. And then the next day comes, you know, a little anxiety about it. We have all our other moves down and all our other stuff, but we were looking for things to piece in, you know, in between the main stuff that was happening in the Rumble. They needed to make the whole battle royale, I should say. So, you know, half the day goes by and I practice it and whatever. And we break for lunch. We come back, which, you know, here's another tip for an actor. Don't eat lunch. If you have a demanding shoot or whatever, skip the lunch, man. And every time I eat lunch on set,
you got to run to the washroom.
You just get exhausted. You know, you know, like if you want to stay in that mental clarity and be on, you know, skip the lunch. Anyway, that's my method. I skip breakfast too. I digress. Anyway, so we come back from lunch. He's like, all right, you ready? And I'm like, for what? He's like, we're going to do a flying elbow. I'm like, but we're shooting right now. We were shooting. And he was like, yeah, it's easy. Come on, let's do it. So I get on the second rope and they put a pad in the middle. And he's like, you know, and I've practiced it in my head 1 bajillion times, right? Like I've seen it, you know. So I do it. And he was like, okay, let's do it off the top. So I climb up the top rope, first time ever. And boy, I gotta tell you, you know, 6'2". So I'm 6 feet off, you know, so the rope's like 4 feet high. So from my head to the mat is 10 feet, right? But from my head to the concrete floor outside the ring, which is just behind me, you know, is, you know, 15 feet or, you know, 12.
Yeah.
You know, you're high up there. You're up there, right? So, you know, you got to get over it. But it's like I'm so in there's all the extras in the crowd, filling out the crowd. It was like 4 rows and then green screen behind it, obviously. All chanted Macho and watching it unfold, right? Like watching me get taught how to do it while we're, you know, because it's all there. It can't. So we do it, and I fly to the, you know, we had to do it on a pad. I do one from the ground to finish the elbow for a real wrestler. The Banisher is his real name. He's a good dude, an Australian wrestler. And I really elbow him, but not from the top rope because you just can't. I mean, there's so many things can go wrong, right? So anyway, so I go up and I do it and I fly and I hit it and it's amazing. And then the director comes over and he's like, oh, you want to rehearse it again? You want to? No, let's shoot it. I want to do it. Chav looks at me. He's like, it's amazing. He was like, just do this. Left foot on the second rope, right foot on the top rope. Don't stand up until you have your balance. Macho wouldn't even stand up if he didn't have his balance, right? Nobody stands up, you know, so and just that tweak of, you know, left foot, right foot up, man. And then I do it. But the director goes, the only note he had is, I want your eye line to be the camera. And so there's this big mat in the middle and the camera on the corner, the cameraman on the ground looking up. So instinctually, I guess, when you're looking at something, same with like driving, you look, you know, you have it. So I do it and I fly and oh man, and instead of landing in the middle of the pad, I land within this close from the camera because, you know, I'm looking at the camera. So I guess I wanted to elbow the camera subconsciously, right? And I flew and everybody came running over like, you're right. They thought I hit the camera because he kind of like moved out of the way at the last second. But he didn't move out of the way. But when we hit, he you know, he had to move. Anyway, it was amazing. And we did it all just right there. That's how good Chavo Guerrero is, that he could teach me how to do my favorite move of all time in real time. And we shot it. It was amazing.
I love it. So. This has been awesome, brother. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate everything you do. And I love connecting. I think this is going to be a long-term connection, and anything I can do for you. Brother. If you're ever in Toronto, I mean, I'd love to take you around and show you around and hang out for a bit with you. So thank you for doing this, man. And I apologize for last time. So I appreciate you coming back in 2 hours, man. This is the longest podcast
Flower.
of 140 I've ever done, and we could probably talk on forever. So I love it.
Yeah, I'm full of hot air, man. You got to shut me up.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, man.